Well, today is the day we wrap up our interview series with the New Jersey Film Festival, the Fall 2018 Festival. You can get the information, of course, at njfilmfest.com. And right now we're going to meet a couple of the filmmakers for some films that are coming up soon. My first guest on the Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline is the director of a film called Baba Bobby Skazala, Grandmother Told Grandmother. Did I get that right? The director of the film is with me here, Matej Selecki. Did I get that relatively close?
That is correct, Matej Selecki.
All right, and good morning to you, and thanks for being here. What do you want people to know about your film that's going to be shown?
So Baba Bobby Skazala, which, by the way, you said it correctly.
Okay.
It's a film about Ukrainian diaspora, Ukrainian child refugees who fled during World War II between the Nazi and Soviet forces. And it's very relevant to, immigration on all sorts of different levels, especially, obviously, talking history here, but as also is relevant to today. It's a story that I developed during my last year of school at UC Berkeley as an oral history project, and it's really blossomed into something much larger than initially planned. And I'm very proud to have it have its world premiere at the New Jersey Film Festival coming up October 7th.
That's really awesome, and congratulations on that. And you, like you had mentioned there, a very timely topic, which continues to be a rather heated item of discussion, not only here in the United States, but around the world. So this is something that's going to create a dialogue, and I think as a filmmaker, you want people to talk after the film is over and keep the dialogue going. That's what it's all about, and one of your missions as a filmmaker, right?
That is true. Now, here's the thing. Ukraine gained its independence from the Soviet Union back in 1991. And although I will say I'm not a political expert, the film Baba Bobby Skazala is definitely not focused on the politics of these territories. Mm-hmm. But understanding the history of this region, the centuries of sort of territorial disputes and the ongoing fight for independence, it adds a greater poignancy to the efforts of the Ukrainian diaspora to maintain its culture. And what's amazing though is the fact that it's not solely reflected in the nationality of the Ukrainian people or in the culture of the Ukrainian people, but each one of our cultures and each one of our nationalities. The importance of maintaining our history, our culture, our traditions is really relevant in all aspects of today's world and each society that we live in.
Is this sort of the story of the American dream, Matej, or is it kind of like the American dream isn't always what people make it up to be?
We'll call it a good mix of reality.
Okay.
So a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. There's a lot of propaganda to be told of, and I guess I'll have to ask viewers to go take a look there on October 7th at the world premiere and reach out if they have any questions or if they'd like to see it themselves. Okay.
Is this a film that you've wanted to make for some time now?
This is a film that I had a few experiences when I was in school, mm-hmm. along with my grandmother always telling me her stories back in the day. And as a child, I had no idea. I didn't understand them. But as I grew older, I started to realize that, wow, Babcia, Grandma, this stuff's really important. Like, this is what made our family. The fact that you continue to share everything that you know from Ukraine. When you fled, when you were being told, forget it all, leave it behind, you brought it here, along with, the rest of the country. And, we can't thank them enough for building the communities that they did across the United States.
Yeah, and your film is going to be shown coming up on Sunday at Voorhees Hall there at Rutgers, beginning at 7 p.m. Get there early because there's an 11-minute short film that will be shown before yours. Kind of also deals with a similar theme of immigration and acceptance and morality and identity. So a couple of powerful films that will be shown coming up on Sunday. And you said this is the world premiere of the movie there. Congratulations on that, too.
Thank you very much.
You had mentioned there kind of a difficult story to put together. Do you think you got it told the way you want it told in the 70-minute runtime?
In a very short way, I certainly hope so. There's a very interesting aspect of, it's a historical document, and documentary, and we utilized a lot of archival footage and video, but there's a certain aspect of where individual memories are, really critically important, and we tried to capture those as best as we could through the voices of the individuals. But we also tried to bring in animation and artwork that I've created along with another artist from Ukraine to capture that sort of vivid, ethereal imagination aspect.
Very good.
And so, yes, this is it's been quite a project and quite a work of labor and love.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on it. Is there any information online? Maybe people can go and just sort of get a feel for what this is about, Facebook, Instagram, something like that?
We are all over each one of the social media platforms. People can check us out at www.baba, B-A-B-A, Babe, B-A-B-E-E, Skazala, SKAZALA.com.
All right. Mate Selecki, the director of the film, congratulations on this, and enjoy the premiere this weekend. It was great talking to you today, and good luck with everything in the future, all right?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, and great to speak with you as well. It is 8:16. We're back on Jersey Central on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. And what a great time it's been this time around with the New Jersey Film Festival, Fall 2018. It's been a great series of films. Professor Al, of course, the curator, and his hardworking team done a great job in putting the festival together this year, so congratulations to everybody, all the filmmakers that we've had the privilege of speaking with, and everyone who goes and supports the New Jersey Film Festival. Thank you so much, and spring will be here before you know it. It's pretty cool. Let's wrap up our interview series now. We'll go back to the Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline, and let's welcome in the director of the film called JFK, The Last Speech, and this will be the main film of the feature film that will be shown at the film festival coming up on Friday night. And I'm real pleased to be joined by the director of the film, Bester Cram, who is here. Bester, good morning. It is Burt Barron. How are you?
Good morning, Burt. Delighted to be on the show with you.
Good to talk to you. And your film, JFK, The Last Speech. And when I think about the Kennedy presidency, and he was assassinated years before I was born, the question that always pops into my mind is what would have been? You can go back and look historically at what were the last public words of one JFK, and one can only imagine what else he could have contributed to the future had that not happened, and you assume maybe a second term of presidency, and who knows what things he would have gone on to achieve as our president. But this really looks at, this was the end. This was the final public words of JFK and the impact it had on people and some of his unique relationships. Is that what you cover in this film?
That's true, Bert. This is a speech that he gave about 3.5 weeks before he was assassinated. He did give some political speeches afterwards, but those were sort of stump speeches and support of political candidates. They weren't really a policy speech or a speech of any particular substance. This speech he delivered at Amherst College, and he had been invited and welcomed to come to Amherst College for the dedication of the Robert Frost Library. And so the film actually probes into the relationship that he had with Robert Frost, the poet, who was a professor at Amherst College, but had passed at the beginning of 1963, which was the final year of JFK's presidency. And you may recall that JFK broke tradition and invited Robert Frost to deliver a poem at his inauguration. This was the first time we'd had a poet who participated in the ceremonies. And that was sort of the beginning of a public relationship that had started a little bit before then with JFK. And it unfortunately was a relationship that really quite disrupted when JFK chose Robert Frost to be an ambassador to Russia in the middle of 1962. So it's a film that probes that relationship, and it uses the last speech, which was really honoring Robert Frost, as a way to kind of look at the ideals that JFK was finding in Robert Frost's life that were ideals that he was extolling for all of us as Americans, in the way in which JFK would express in his leadership sort of ideas that had substantial substance for all of us to consider.
Wow, and when you think about 1962 and the Cold War and the state of the world at that time, and the Cuban Missile Crisis and all sorts of things that were happening, is that covered in the film to some degree too, Bester?
It is, in the sense that this particular trip that Frost made on behalf of the president happened just prior to the Cuban Missile Crisis. In fact, it was a trickling information of sort of what was going on in Cuba was coming in, but was not being made public. Actually, when Frost left, the president, I don't think, really knew what was happening in Cuba, and we were just beginning to assess sort of some of the documents that would later on confirm and then alter, in a sense, the relationship that we had with Moscow. But our film is as much a probe into the kind of humanity that a president can express in his public life, and his embrace of Robert Frost as a poet is an expression of Kennedy's humanity. The film also probes 4 different students who actually heard Kennedy's speech at Amherst. They're all Amherst College graduates of the year of 1964, which would have been they would have been seniors when Kennedy delivered his address. And we do portraits of each of their lives today to show sort of the lasting impact that Kennedy had upon their career and the arc of their lives.
Interesting. And as time kind of goes on, Bester, every presidency, every administration, it seems like every person who's been in the White House, you have people that have this sort of romantic relationship with them and idolized a president. And there are some people just simply didn't really care for the person who occupied the White House for a period of time. For someone who was a Kennedy fan, or for someone who was not a Kennedy fan, well, they'll both be able to appreciate this film?
I think so, because I think in the end, and this is why we focused in on the speech, we're learning today that words matter. And particularly in terms of the public discourse that takes place, and particularly in terms of who delivers them. And so this is a film for today as we look back upon the words that were chosen and were expressed by Kennedy. Kennedy wasn't a president long enough for us to remember all of the achievements of his administration, because his achievements were actually visions for the future, oftentimes.
Yeah, you look at his presidency, and it's almost like the sample size was not enough to really kind of make a fair assessment of the administration. That's always been my opinion.
Well, I think you're right, Bert. I think but if you think back, what is it that we remember the most about Kennedy as a leader and as a president? And we remember the things that he said and how he said them. And, he did say we were going to take somebody to the moon, and we remember that. And he said he challenged us to create a Peace Corps. And there are so many people that participated in that organization. And we remember that about him. We remember mostly, I think, more than anything else, almost everybody who, no matter what year they were born in, has heard Kennedy's inauguration speech and the notion of ask not what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for your country. And I think that in some respects, we decided to focus in on the ideas of this particular speech as a way to both remember what Kennedy stood for, but also to remember how important the words that are uttered by a president actually are in terms of the leadership that they express and the way our lives are affected by those words.
Yep, you're right. And to this day, hanging in the lobby of this radio station is a picture of a campaign stop that President Kennedy made in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I believe he was here on behalf of someone who was running for office here in our state, and we've got this picture of a campaign, a stage, and bunting, and a banner, and a podium, and there's President Kennedy standing in downtown New Brunswick, and we have a picture, beautifully restored picture, that hangs in the lobby of our radio station here. Somewhere where people can go online, Bester, and get a little more background on the film?
We have a very deep website, www.jfkthelast.speech.org. So if you just remember the title of the film and then put in .org, it'll take you there. There are a considerable amount of essays that are in there. There's also information regarding a book that has now been published that is available, about a 320-page book that covers a lot of the history and a lot of the impact of JFK upon people's lives by both students as well as various different authorities and humanists and folks from the academic community.
Very good.
So there's a great deal of material there.
Bester Cram, director of JFK, The Last Speech. Great to speak with you this morning on WCTC. Congratulations on the film and very informative stuff. Great speaking with you today, okay?
Thank you, Bert.